In the previous video, I've spoken about intimacy and unbelievers. And I've explained how intimacy with worldlings is bound to control. When they sense they can control you, they feel intimate with you. When they don't have this feeling that they can control you, they won't get intimate with you. That is how worldlings are. But then you may say, but Rashid, what about people that are fans of celebrities? Those celebrities need their fans to have a public image. That is what the fans realize. That's why the fans are so fond of them. So even that type of praise is not really healthy praise. But okay, I'm not going to talk about celebrities on this video. In this video, I want to highlight to you that it is important for you as a believer to unlearn feeling entitled to your own expectations. Listen what I'm saying here. Stop feeling entitled to your own expectations. The world tells you that it's your life, you only live once, therefore you have to do it your way, that if you don't like something, you're upset with something, just open your mouth, be honest, be true, that you never have issues. Do not beat around the bush, but be clear with what you want. That's what the world is telling you. Stand up for yourself, enforce boundaries. The world tells you to maximize your own expectations as much as possible, as long as you don't do open harm to others. Now, is that what Christ told us to do? Christ told us to deny ourselves, to pick up our crosses, and to follow Him. Now, denying yourself is not the same as forfeiting yourself. That's what the world is telling you. The world seems to promote you, but in fact, they're telling you to forfeit yourself. To forfeit yourself simply means that you hand yourself completely over to be used by something or someone else without any regard to yourself anymore. When you forfeit something, you throw it away without looking back. The world tells you to forfeit yourself. Christ says to deny yourself, so to entrust yourself completely unto Christ. The world tells you forfeit yourself, you're nothing, society is everything, so you do everything on society's terms or else. So the world threatens you to forfeit yourself. Christ never wants you to forfeit yourself. Christ wants you to deny yourselves. And that is why we need to unlearn this entitlement that we have with our own expectations. Every worldling out there has entitlements that they're holding on to. Those entitlements are also called principles, boundaries, norms, and values. So all worldlings feel entitled to certain expectations. Now, entitlement in itself, there's nothing wrong with it. You can be entitled to safety. Why? Because safety is a basic human need. You can be entitled to people not harming you. So entitlement in itself, there's nothing wrong with it. But with worldlings, their entitlements are self-centered, self-seeking. That means that they are at the expense of others, with themselves at the center. That's the issue. And there's nothing wrong with expecting things from other people. But worldlings invest in expectations they don't examine. For example, why is it that in almost every country or culture, when someone is older, you have to speak in a more considerate way to that individual? I mean, aren't we all human beings? Why is it that in many cultures you can speak like trash to a child, but when it comes to someone that's older, you have to watch how you speak? Why is that? Because the child cannot retaliate. The child has no way but to put up with you. So you can unload yourself. With someone that's older, he or she can retaliate, or others can retaliate on their behalf. So, because you're older, you kind of become entitled to be considered. And you have a lot of worldlings that agree with this. When someone is older, you just have to find a way to put up with what they're doing, and you need to watch out how you treat them or speak to them. Hold on a minute. So, if someone is older, but they are a narcissistic asshole, and they're spreading violence and danger in the community, you have to allow them to do that to you because they're older? So you don't have any value at all? You see what I mean? Society tells you to forfeit yourself. Christ tells you to deny yourself. So Christ tells you, don't deal with this situation based on your own terms. Do it my way so that the violence doesn't harm you and the violence is shut down. That's what Christ is saying. Christ knows everything, so he wants you to rely on his understanding and how to deal with such issues, instead of relying on your own understanding. Because worldlings, they don't see when they are controlled by toxic expectations. They don't see it. They expect you to put up with this, but they don't have to face themselves. Listen, people can have expectations. If you're at someone's house and they don't want you to walk around with shoes on, okay, you just do it. If you're with someone and they can't stand certain words that they call cuss words, then you can avoid such words. Just as a decent consideration towards them. Not that they are entitled to it, because they have no rights to violate you just because you don't adapt to their style of speaking. But in the world, people feel entitled to harm you, or to dismiss you, or to shun you when you don't adopt to their style of speaking. They're not entitled to that, nor should you submit to it, but from a decent basic consideration, you can consider them, if I don't use certain words. So of course you consider other people. I'm not talking about that. With worldlings, however, they don't take enough with just your basic human consideration. They want to control and own your behavior. That is what it is with worldlings. So worldlings walk around with entitlements, and the moment you don't worship their entitlements, they now have a problem with you. They do this as a group. That's what we call society. Society is worldlings worshipping their entitlements as a group. And when you join and bow down to those entitlements, they welcome you, you're part of society, they celebrate you. The moment you begin to question things or you begin to ask for an account, now they don't want anything to do with you anymore. So understand this. All worldlings out there come with demands. They all come with covert threats. I'm not saying that every worldling is a narcissist that seeks to exploit you. No. Even if they are not narcissists, even if they are decent people, even the decent people of the world have expectations that don't add up. And they'll get upset with you when they have to be confronted with themselves. The number one thing worldlings use to avoid having to look at themselves is by putting you in the negative daylight. That is what it means you're disrespectful. Why? Disrespectful or rude simply means you don't give in to what they want. And because they don't want to examine what it is they really want, because once they have to examine what they want, they will realize, well, why do I even want this? Or why should this individual have to put up with what I want? They don't want to go this far. So when they feel uncomfortable because now they need to because what they expect is challenged, now they'll put blame on you, they'll put you in negative daylight, or they may even put you under threat of violence so that the attention goes away from them. That's what worldlings do, 99% of the time. Rarely will you encounter a worldling that's going to sit down with you and reflect on things and admit, okay, you're right. This ain't correct. Understand this about worldlings. So never get involved with a worldling thinking that you can be free. No. When you're dealing with a worldling, you are dealing with someone that's a psychic addict. You're dealing with someone that has entitlements that are being conditioned into them by society. And you have people, and those are people that likely don't want to see that they are psychic addicts, nor that they have entitlements that don't add up. So you're dealing with people with defense mechanisms anytime they are challenged. So when you're dealing with a worldling, you're dealing with someone that has toxic defense mechanisms, so they don't have to see that they have toxic expectations. Once you understand these are worldly people, you'll know how to treat them. You'll know how far you can go with them, and you'll know when to leave them. Because a lot of believers, they don't realize how fallen worldlings are, even when it's way too obvious. Many of the things I've been teaching on the channel are obvious things, but those things are so obvious that people just don't realize they're there. So, am I saying that you should never have any contact, anything to do with worldlings? Absolutely not. We're here in the world. We're here to reach out to worldlings, and worldlings need us because we walk by faith, we have carried the light of Christ. So, we deal with worldlings in a Christ-centered way. Just realize that You cannot remain with these people. You cannot remain involved with these people on the long term and not expect some issues to come up. Because those expectations of theirs are issues that are unresolved. And anyone with unresolved issues, those issues will resurface sooner or later. I don't care how decent they are, how kind they are, how polite they are, or how much empathy they have. I don't care how Christ-like their behavior is. If they have unresolved issues, and this also counts for believers, because you also have many believers with unresolved issues. Anyone, believer or unbeliever, male or female, with unresolved issues, those issues will manifest sooner or later. Unresolved issues doesn't have to be things that happened to them in childhood. If you have people that use you as a scapegoat, that is an issue. It's not your issue, but it's an issue that afflicts you. So now you're dealing with this issue. And the way to resolve this is by walking in safety so that whatever they dump on you through psychic violence does not harm you. That's how you deal with the issue. But if you have a believer that does not have the proper knowledge on how to deal with psychic violence, then the dumping of others has become an issue to that believer. And sooner or later, the harm of that violence will surface in that believer's life. And that will cause other issues, that will cause other conflicts or other tragedies. So everyone during his lifetime will encounter issues, whether it's issues they've accumulated themselves through what they've went through, or issues of what others are pushing on them. It doesn't matter. Issues we will all face. The difference is some people process those issues in a proper way, others are fleeing from them. Anyone with unresolved issues will eventually involve you in those issues. You can have someone that was a scapegoat of his family. Now, he's not a bad guy, so he's not doing any harm. But he has difficulty seeing how narcissistic his family is. So one day, that guy may not treat you badly, but whatever is haunting the guy will also affect you. Maybe due to the psychic violence and the psychic wounds he carries, he attracts bad people into his life. And you're hanging out with this guy, even though he's not a bad guy, he still attracts bad people because he has wounds that haven't healed, because he hasn't processed what's going on. And because of that, the bad people that are attracted to him will also notice you, and now you may become a target of those people, think that he can drain you. So, anyone with unresolved issues, whether it's their own issues, well, own issues, you get what I'm saying, things they've accumulated, or things that were done to them over time, it needs to be resolved. Too many believers are walking around with issues that are unresolved. And unresolved issues will become taking time bombs eventually. So, are you only going to deal with people whose issues are resolved? First of all, how do you know if someone's issues are resolved? Someone may have an issue that's haunting them and they're not even aware of it. So how do you know that? What I'm telling you is, be flexible and practical with other people, with both believers and unbelievers. And realize, anytime anyone is running away from any issue in their lives, it's going to come back in ugly ways. That's why as a believer, if you need to get out of a dangerous or tough situation, you do it, as long as you process what's going on in a Christ-centered way. That's it for now. Keep on agreeing with Christ and be at peace.